screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. Hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Welcome back to Rogue Soul, where tonight it is January Tarot Oracle. It's already just days from 2026. So I don't know how many years I've been doing these monthly tarot oracles for you all, but time flies. Time flies. And this December has been intense for a lot of people. Lots of things are happening on the world stage and in our economy, our physical health, our mental and emotional health, our romantic relationships, our societal situation, our spiritual aspect. And we always get all those messages every month, as well as a final overall message. And so without further ado, let's talk about January 2026 and how it's going to be. This first card here is for the placement in our economy. This is the card of uselessness. It's a perceived uselessness. It's a perceived sort of worthlessness. You can see there's a sort of chaotic element here. This can often be the uselessness comes from so many differing sort of voices and energies that are all sort of conflicting. And that's sort of what the Tangle of Swords looks like as well. And so it may be that there's just so much division, different sort of aspects of the economy that are maybe attempting to be fueled by one faction or another, and they're all sort of maybe competing. That might be part of it. We are sort of seeing this, like silver's been going up, and a lot of these sort of precious metals and things have been going up, and crypto's been going down a little bit, but it's still, strong, and for many people a very viable option. And, we've got the stock markets, we've got all these different cryptocurrencies. We've got the traditional dollar, seeming to be pretty questionably, questionably there or not there for your future. And so we do sort of have that aspect in general. If there were further challenges, the economy shrank or contracted even more, if we've had even less sort of ability to be sure about which value we wanted to put our money into in order to ride through the coming perceivable economic chaos, we might feel useless. We might feel useless. We might feel like, how can I possibly know which of these many options is going to be the one? Right? And we've kind of been getting not really this message so much as the message of like, hey, it's time to be safe with our money. It's time to be thinking about what we can put our money into and what is actually practical and what will actually give us long-term, value as far as existing as physical beings on earth, right? Like things like generators and seeds and, land and the things that help humans survive, right? Being able to clean and have good, clean water and all that sort of stuff, producing food. That's been for many years now. This is a little bit different. This is like, whatever it is, whatever chaos is coming, you might feel useless in the face of it. And there's no real easy way around that. If you feel that, you're going to feel that. If it feels like you can't possibly make the right choice or there's no right choice to make, then that's just how it's going to feel. It's already, like I said, we've already been told to be practical, to be, looking at what's actually value filled as far as living. And so hopefully you're long since have taken care of that side of things. And as I always say, it's just smart. It's smart to have a certain amount of food on hand in case you weren't able to get any for a time. It's always smart to be able to get clean drinking water in case you weren't able to get any for a time. Those things are always intelligent. But there are also circumstances that can happen that make it like, how could you have possibly planned for this economically and monetarily, right? How could you have possibly used value in such a way that you felt empowered and clear and all of that? This is the opposite of that. So, there would be different cards if there was just like utter chaos and no way forward, and just like destruction or something. And that's not what we're seeing. but it might be frustrating. It might feel like you can't really make the right choice. It might feel like you couldn't have predicted, and it might feel like, yeah, do I have any power at all? That also just might be the feeling we get as things are devalued, as the dollar is devalued, as things do get, more expensive, or we have more of a sort of depression type contraction going on, right? If that's the case. So it could be any of those things. This is the energy for January. So it's always smart to store up what you need to store up, get ready for it, and know that the rest is not up to you, right? That's January's message. We move to physical health, and we have the card of courage here. It's very interesting. We actually had the card of death for for the December tarot, and as of this readings stream and airing, we haven't really seen the death that would have indicated. What was interesting to me about that card was that there were so many other psychics and even strategic forecasting companies, right, that specifically predicted a massive amount of population reduction by the end of December 2025. I mean, technically, there's still 2 days left. I mean, like, I guess it could happen. But if this is like the one of the few times that my tarot oracles are wrong, I'll be okay with that, because death in the place of physical health is pretty straightforward. There's one way to take that, the death in various different placements and various different readings would indicate different things. But for physical health, death is death, right? So, there's that. I will say I've had myself pretty intense purifications in December, physical purifications. And so this is what often a sickness or an illness, or, what seems to be those types of things will look like as far as purifications go on the physical level. It'll feel like you're sick. And so I've had a lot of that. So maybe the death was the death of nanotech, right? Or the death of parasites, or the death of something like that within our physical bodies. There's always that possibility. We'll see if the next 2 days sort of serves anything up. But getting courage for January makes me wonder sort of what that death card might have actually meant, and then how we might need to be courageous as far as what might feel like the challenges to our physical health in January. This card also has like a sense of togetherness, helping each other, supporting each other, being courageous together. So there's that too. However you can lend other people your courage, your support, your encouragement in January on the physical health level, that'll be good. If there is some sort of mass death or mass sort of casualty event or plague or something that does happen to break out in the next couple days or soon, then definitely we would need that from each other, right? And the other aspect of this, I always think back to when Sai Baba, the Ascended Master, came down as a light body and into the physical body of a man who I was by no means expecting to have anything like this come through him, and told me of the hardships humanity would face from 2020 to 2033. And I remember always how he said, you will feel as though you have been abandoned, and you'll feel as though all is lost, and it is not, and I am with you. And I always think about that, like, I haven't actually felt that way, but maybe you have. Maybe I have a little bit here and there, but I think about that, and then I think about this card, and I think about, if it were ever to get really challenging, and you were ever to doubt, I hope this message comes back to you at that moment, reminds you you aren't actually alone in that moment, and there is always, especially in the unseen, those who are standing with you, and you can feel that, and maybe be more courageous in the face of what might seem like the odds stacked against you. So if there are physical health challenges coming soon or in January, we definitely want to remember our courage to move through them, especially together when possible. And on the mental emotional placement in this reading, we have the Hermit reversed, our first major arcana for the reading, and reversed. Mentally, emotionally, it's interesting to think about this card. The Hermit, of course, is about hermiting ourselves, removing ourselves sort of from public or social, contact and immersion, and just retreating a little bit. Sometimes it's literally like, go on a vacation, like, get out of here, go on a retreat or something. Sometimes it's more like, well, I have to keep going to work or I have to keep going to the store or whatever, but I'm also just going to be in a more private time of my life, right? I'm going to maybe read more, reflect more, spend more time in meditation, and that sort of thing. That would all be indicated by the Hermit card in general. And the reversal here is that we would, resist that. So mentally and emotionally, it might be a good time in January to sort of, again, you never just cutting people off or just like not taking care of yourself or going to the things you need to go to. But to some extreme extent, maybe you just sort of step back a little bit from a little bit more of the social circles or aspects, or reaching out, and it's for your mental health, it's for your emotional health. And again, the reversal here would mean most of us don't really want to, right? We want to be connecting with others, or oftentimes what it looks like is we're distracting ourselves with others. We're like, yeah, let's go out to everything we can, do everything we can with someone else, because we don't have to be alone with ourselves and deal with some of these deeper, more internal sorts of questions. But this would be saying, this is actually a good time for that. So this is sort of, it might seem opposite to the message we just had in physical health, which was, to have courage no matter the physical health sort of struggles that might arise, and to also share that courage with others. It's not actually opposite. You don't actually have to spend a lot of time with other people in order to share with them the encouragement or the message of, hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to do this together. Right? You can still spend some more time internally, introspectively, alone, but not lonely, right? Like with yourself, in that internal space. And that's really what's called for in January, or especially to support yourself mentally and emotionally, is to give yourself more of that. It can be hard if you live with a lot of people. It can be hard if you have kids. It can be hard if you have, you got to work and you have kids and stuff. And so this would just be saying, maybe put some emphasis on that. Maybe put a little bit more focus on those moments of inner stillness, right? This is when we can really connect with the highest goodness, truth, and beauty, the highest light source, God, our spiritual guides and allies, is when we're still within. And it's very unlikely the rest of the time. It can happen, and it does. It's most likely when you are still and going within. So January, you really want to be doing that. That's what the light in this card is about, that you see at what would be the top of the card, but is at the bottom here because of the reversal. That's the light of source, right? It's coming down to connect with you, and you get to fill yourself with it. And that's that lantern that you're holding here as the hermit, right? Now you get to have that light within you forever. So January is the time to go within, especially for your mental and emotional health. On the romance side of things, we have another major arcana, this time upright, and very interesting in this placement. This is the Hierophant, and the Hierophant is all about tradition and the things that we hold in common together, our institutions. So in this case, with romance, the institution that comes to mind is marriage, right? It's marriage. It's being in a committed relationship, at least, right? And so if you had anything in you that was unsure, kind of waiting to see, or I don't know if that's what's right, or maybe I don't really trust the institution of marriage or anything, this card would kind of be like, no, it's good, and it's maybe time, right? If you've been waiting, if not, it's like, if you don't have that person in your life, and you're still looking at it, it's sort of like, hey, make sure you're looking for the type of person that can be in this lifelong institution with you, institution of marriage. It's lifelong commitment for you, because that's the way, there's a reason why we have these sorts of traditions. And this sort of thing is becoming more common, more popular to think about. Maybe it was good that we had more of a value, more of an ideal of lifelong marriage in the past. Maybe that served a purpose, and maybe we've gotten a little too far from that. And so this card definitely supports that message, that yes, we have gotten too far from that. It is something that we should be valuing, be looking for, be securing for ourselves. The wedding ring itself has been said to be very Saturnian. This is Saturnian sort of energy here in this card. It's not a bad thing. A lot of people have been programmed to think Saturn is evil for some reason, which is just part of popular culture, but it's not. It's just a neutral energy in the universe, and it can be used for good or evil. But there is a Saturnian element to tradition, marriage, institution, the commitment that the ring signifies. And so, because this is in the placement of romance, that's all brought up here for January. Again, I always think about this. These readings are for you guys. They're for the people who listen to this show and to this reading. So this message is for not necessarily everyone, right? If there was just a large group of people who are very, very averse to marriage, or that they wouldn't be listening to the show. So this message is for you. And so yeah, if you haven't thought about it, be thinking about it. If that hasn't been sort of your focus in, dating or whatever, but make it your focus. And if it hasn't been your standard on evaluating the people who you are interacting with, like, make it your standard, right? Be looking for the lifelong commitment and institution that marriage is, or that it represents, and that's one of the keys to wellness, and as a person, as a couple, and as a community, and as a society. So that's what this card is bringing us for January. Reflect on that. If you're already in a marriage, this would be a great month to just sort of maybe even like rededicate that or recommit to it, or not that you need to and you're unfaithful, right? But just to, like, in your heart and mind, like, refresh that and remind yourself of why this was such an important thing for you in your life, and the good that it's brought you, right? Just sort of reinforce that for yourself. And again, kind of like it's not indicated in this card so much, but it is there in the fact that we have multiple generations represented, the idea that we pass this tradition down as well. So, sort of like the courage card, you might also think about how you can share this with other people, or encourage other people, or really remind them of the value that exists there, if that's possible. So you might already be married, good, totally, reinforce it. It's just there, it's present, you love it. But maybe there's people in your life who don't really get this message, right? Don't really have that encouragement. Younger people especially might need that from you. And so however you can represent that and share that might also be really good in January. We've got Kali here, the Mother of Wands, and she's reversed in the placement of society. And so, this is again continuously sort of getting this message. And I want to even say we had the alchemy card last month, but I don't remember. You'll have to check me on it. But we've gotten this message many times, especially recently, in the placement of society, of this sort of division that's occurring. And I know nobody likes that, and especially the people who are pathologically love and light want to, like, transcend duality. It's like, well, you're in a dual universe and existence. You really can't transcend it until you've transcended it. And here you are not transcending it. So to pretend it away isn't helpful, right? To pretend that that's not the case here in this reality is not that's just delusional, right? So I know nobody really loves to think about the divisions in society, especially because a lot of them have been intentionally, inserted, and it's been intended for us to be divided amongst each other. But there's this other side of this sort of division that is alchemical. And in alchemy, you must divide things, like to like and unlike against unlike. You have to, in order to purify the essence of a thing, right? So in alchemy, you have these stages, and eventually they lead to the complete and utter separation of two things that are actually unlike, that had once been together. Right? This is what we do. So, you might, like, put the plant matter in, you burn it, you calcify it, you whatever, you soak it in the alcohol or the liquid or whatever, and you extract, right, the essence of the thing. This is alchemical. And so there's a point at which division is absolutely necessary. Another way to think about this is even within yourself, right? At some point, it has been necessary many times for you to say, I'm no longer this thing that is cut out of me and my life, right? Whether it's a person who drinks alcohol, or a person who smokes cigarettes, or a person who gossips, or a person who doesn't take care of themselves, like, all these things had to be separated out from you so that you could be actually more essentially you. And that's really Kali's job too. She's the calcifier, or she's the destroyer. She burns all that matter down to that ash so we can begin to, in this case, sort of be reborn, right? So we can extract that essence like in alchemy, and we can be the purified version of ourselves. And humanity is doing this too. And so nobody really loves to think about it too much. It's usually one of those things, especially spiritual people, sort of stay away from. Want to pretend that all of us are just going to magically uplift together at the same time in the same place. And hey, well, sure, I'm open to it. It could happen. But realistically, what's more likely, as far as nature goes, as far as the processes you can watch having gone on for millions of years and probably millions of years more, things actually do have to separate, divide in order to purify. And some things fall to ashes, and some things are purified and raised up. And so in society, we're still doing this. We're still doing this dance, right? Where we're, I think, pretending to still be somewhat unified, or able to work together, see eye to eye, and at another level, like that's not really the case. I'm not calling for civil war. I'm not calling for you to cut people out of your life. I'm reminding you that there is a time where your boundary and your line in the sand actually matters, and you do actually have to do it. But what this card also indicates is that you don't want to, and you might not. And that's normal. No judgment here. It can be very difficult, especially with all of the emotional trauma many of us have had, with the codependency that most of us have been trained into. It can become a pattern for us to keep people around who are not good for us, for them. Like, oh, but what will they do without me? Or, they need a friend, or they need whatever. Well, what do you need? And why isn't that more important? It's not selfish. It's not selfish. Selfish would be if I was sitting in a room with 500 pounds of chicken and there was 60 starving people and I said, no, you can't have any. That's selfish. It's not selfish to say, what I need is for this chicken to be my chicken, and you can't touch this chicken. You can have all those other ones, but this one's mine, don't touch it. Right? It's the same difference. You're allowed to have what you need. You're allowed to do what you need to do. You're allowed to make sure you're okay. Right, and the people who say that's selfish or describe any of this as selfish, those are the people who are codependent and who are not well. They're very sure, usually. They're very sure of themselves. It might even be the people who you might need to sort of cut out of your life, or say, yeah, you know what, I do have this strong boundary, and we actually can't mix together or work together. That's just not possible, right? It might be that those are the people who are telling you that you're selfish. It's usually the case, actually. Usually the case. It keeps you in their life longer if they can convince you that it's what you're supposed to do, right? So we have some destruction continuing to go on, probably in the form of division. It does lead to a more purified version of ourselves and society in the end, but we're resisting it. We're still trying to pretend like these aren't too big to overcome. And so we'll see where that leads us, probably to a little bit more conflict and hardship. But that's the case. So the more you can be in your boundaries, full of your right to have what you need, not codependent, healthier in that way, the less this energy will sort of drag you down, especially in January. And our spiritual message then is this Two of Swords, which is the card of peace. It is not an easy peace, I'll tell you that. This card sounds good. It looks fine. You're like, yeah, peace sounds good. That's great. But I'm always pointing out, if you've had this card in a reading with me, I always point out, does that look like a happy peace? Does that look like a warm and thriving peace? This is not the peace that some might call peace profound. This is the peace that you can have no matter what's happening around you, even if it's hard, even if it's somewhat chaotic, even if you don't actually know where things are headed. This is the sort of peace you can have. You can say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to walk this path anyway. And I'm going to do it with as much patience and compassion and self-love and, ideals and principles that I can. And I'm also aware it's not great. It's not ideal. It's not perfect. And there's definitely things that probably can and probably should be better than they are, but this is what I've got to work with. And so I'm going to hold my peace within it. right? You can see the sun in the sky is quite dim here. We don't have a lot of just vibrant life, and that energy is not sort of there, but it's like you can maintain, right? You can maintain. It's not the easiest, but you can do it. You might even have a really, really cool partner or other, because there are two swords here. It just often indicates there's someone else walking this path with us. So you might see that, and you might have this like kind of relief. Well, at least I'm walking here with you, right? And it might be something like this show, right? Or it might be something like a spiritual guide or a higher level connection that is that other sword with you, but you're not alone as you're walking this. And that message has come through a few times in this January reading. So keep that in mind. And so, yeah, you can have your peace, and you're encouraged to keep your peace as you move through, especially January, especially if there are challenging situations that we saw is likely in our economic situation, it's likely in our physical health, it's likely in our mental and emotional, it's likely in our societal. So it might be kind of coming at us from all angles. Again, none of them are feeling super chaotic or traumatic or just horribly destructive. They're just feeling challenging, perhaps irritating, and so again, it makes sense why we were called to go within with that Hermit card, right? It makes sense with all of these other things that we're going to find more peace. We're going to find more guidance. We're going to find more ability to hold our boundaries, right? And all of that when we spend more time within and in that higher connection. So that makes sense why that was a specific call in this reading for January as well. And for our overall final message, we've got another major arcana also reverse, and this is the Magician. And we're really, part of why we face, it's not just part, it is the reason why in general we face these struggles or frustrations or hardships is because we are purifying. So again, back to that idea of like, why are we divided as a society? Well, it's because we're purifying. We're purifying what matters to us, why it matters, if we can or can't put up with certain things, in order to move forward together, all those sorts of things. We're purifying on every level. It's part of why we have so many health issues, because we're purifying at the physical level, right? It's part of why we're being asked to go within with the hermits, because we're purifying and we need guidance and stillness while we're purifying. Purifying comes in the form of, like I said earlier, some illness. It can be physical, it can be mental anguish, it can be emotional and old traumas, it can be coming up in our relationships, our friends, our family, our coworkers, or just society at large. All of these levels of ourself are purifying, and that's what this time period is really about, and that's why so many things are transforming, because we really are getting to that point, right, where we say like, no, you know what, I can't drink alcohol at all anymore, or I can't, hang out with people who talk like that, or I can't listen to this music. I actually need, for life to be like this in order for me to thrive and to create myself and my family and my community in this way that is beneficial for myself and everyone, and it matters, right? And so the Magician really signifies all of that. The Magician actually is highlighting that it matters deeply what we think. It matters deeply how we feel. It matters deeply if our physical body is well, right? It matters deeply if we're in our spiritual connection or we understand that aspect of ourselves. And if we don't, if any one of those is out of balance, we just aren't able to be that divine channel. We're not able to be the magician, right? To make the magic occur, to make it happen. We're not able to do that. And so it is actually deadly serious that we focus on purifying more and more and more. And it's this thing I think we're recovering from, especially Gen X, and this sort of maybe I haven't really paid too much attention to the generations under, but maybe everyone, but definitely the generation above us too. I mean, we just have this idea that like, well, it doesn't really matter if I just like do a little heroin and have a little party, and and like it does actually matter. It matters. It matters absolutely with which intention, how you're going about every single thing. And I was told this, I keep being reminded of it because I keep being invited to do better and better. And you might all think, wow, she already does so good. Yeah, there's always things we can do better at. But I keep being reminded that it matters and it will matter more and more through this, especially this time period through 2033, that we pay attention to every detail. And I don't want you to stress out about that, because stress is not the helpful energy. But just like to call yourself to sort of attention, and in like every movement and every thought, right, and every reaction or response, right, and everything you're creating and everything you're saying, to pay more and more attention to what it actually is, or how you're actually doing it, or if it's actually the best way you can do it. This is a different energy than like perfectionism and OCD and stress, right? It's this idea instead that you're more and more present with yourself, and you're very aware of what you think and feel and say and do. It's part of what we're doing automatically as we move through more and more of these changes, earth changes, consciousness changes. It's automatically going to be the case. But the sort of better you can do at it, the easier that transformation will be for you. So as you're sort of ascending, rising up in consciousness, whether you like it or not, you're either purifying all that stuff, or you're getting dragged down the other direction towards the heaps of people who are not quite going to choose that route. There's a different outcome for them than there is for the people who do choose to go that route. So the other thing that comes up with the magician is knowing yourself, right? Understanding your own subconscious. It sounds like an impossible task. How can the subconscious be anything but subconscious? It's the subconscious. But the more you're connected with your subconscious, the more you actually do know yourself, the more your shadows actually do come up into the light. The more you are a sort of integrated person, the more you are more aware and more present, like we were just talking about. And so how do you get in touch with your subconscious and more aware of it, more integrated with it? Well, exactly as the hermit had called you to early in their reading, you go within more often. You spend more time with yourself. In quietness and stillness, in reflection, in presence. And then it just becomes habit, it becomes natural. And then you do just start paying attention to details. And you do just start notice things like, you know what, I thought I really loved this person, but actually it's just a habit I've had to hang out with them for decades. And I actually don't like how I feel around them. And I might stop hanging out with them. I might hang out with them less, right? Things like that, you'll just notice. You know what, when I eat this stuff, I don't feel very good. I might eat something even better, right? I might move away from that. And you do just start purifying physical, body, heart, soul, mind, right? Every level of self just starts to get a little clearer, a little more pure, a little more pure, a little more pure. The magician is reversed here because most people are in resistance to all of what I just said. Most people want to hold on to the times where we could say, oh, you know what? It's okay. Just eat that cupcake and just, do some heroin and just gossip about that person and listen to this shitty music and, don't take care of yourself very well. It doesn't matter. Most people want that. It feels easier to us, right? It feels easier to us. It's actually not. It's a huge amount of stress and drag on our system to be that way. But that's not how we experience it. It's not what we've been trained into. It's not the pattern that we've seen modeled back at us by society and our forebears and everyone else around us. And so we think that it's easier to, be slovenly or let ourselves go or, let ourselves just have a little fun or however you want to, euphemistically talk about your own destruction. It's not true though. It's not true. I think it was Foster Gamble. I think it was the first time we talked. Maybe it was the second. Anyway, he said something like, oh, it's not easier. And I thought, because I was like, oh, it's so much easier to just not do. And I don't even remember what it was, but whatever it was. And he's like, oh, it's not easier. It's not easier. And I was like, man, you know what? That's true. It's not easier. It's actually easier to do better as often as possible. It makes everything easier, actually. So the reverse magician is really highlighting that of just, the easiest way to summarize it is like excellent self-care at every moment of every day. Every moment of every day. We could all do better at that, right? So again, they're never trying to judge you. These cards are trying to draw your attention to the areas where your attention has the most good, especially in the coming month. So take good care of you. And just to review, We have that disruptive economic feelings of perhaps powerlessness and uselessness in the face of whatever's happening in the economy. We do have this call to be courageous, even if our physical health is challenged or those of the people around us, and to remember that there is always a way through. Not 100% of people are always going to make it. Or in fact, 100% of people are going to die at some point. But right, whatever the challenge is, there is always a way through, and to be courageous in the face of that is what you're called to do in January. To spend more time going within for your own mental and emotional health, although you will resist that most likely, it's best if you can try to push past that resistance and make it happen for you. And in your romance, to again kind of recommit or commit or be aiming towards this ideal of actual marriage, lifelong commitment, and maybe even be encouraging that for others too, being a good role model of it, to allow the ongoing destructive energy of society, to allow it to continue to burn away the dross, to purify you, to let go of those connections and those things that don't serve you anymore, to maybe even look at how you can have better boundaries and say, you know what, no, I can't actually unite with that, and I can't actually promote it or support it. It's different for me, right? And that helps purify you. And on societal level, this is ongoing. And then that spiritual message of maintaining your inner peace, even if things around you are very challenging or disruptive or seem scary or maybe even seem doom worthy, that you say, you know what, that's okay. I have my peace within me. I carry it with me. And I even have support in that. And so I'm good, right? And then finally, that Magician card, that call to pay more and more attention, be more and more present in your soul, heart, mind, and body, so you can be purifying at every level so that you can be a better and better channel for the divine, which is what we're all doing here. I don't know if you knew that. That's what we're all doing here, being a good channel for the divine. I would ask people much of my life, what are you doing here? And I wasn't trying to be confusing, but a lot of times it was confusing to people because they'd be like, what, here in this bar? Like, no, like, what are you doing in life? Like, what are you alive for? And like, I don't know, I was just born, here I am. Like, yeah, but what are you doing with it? Like, why are you here? What are you doing? And it would kind of like stun people, like, why are you even who even asked this question, right? But I'm like, I see that so many people are just doing nothing. They're just doing nothing. Like, as though this life is nothing, as though it's just, what is it worth? Right? It's like, oh, it's just a weird accident. Now here I am. And I'm just like, don't you remember what you're doing here? Your whole purpose is to remember that divine connection and be a channel for it. That's it. That's it. That's what you're doing here. So you could do better and better at that. And it goes better and better for you and for everyone else until you nail it. Travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Glued to these screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones, a holly suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.